Welcome to another deep dive into the timeless lessons from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. Today, we're exploring Law 2, Never Put Too Much Trust in Friends, Learn How to Use Enemies. It might sound harsh, and it is, but the stories behind this law reveal a cold truth about loyalty, power, and human nature. Let's dive in. The Judgment. Be wary of friends. Why? Because friends will betray you more quickly. Jealousy and envy often stir beneath the surface. Friends can turn into rivals, even tyrants. But a former enemy, they tend to be more loyal than friends. Why? Because they have something to prove. In fact, Robert Greene argues, you have more to fear from false friends than from true enemies. And if you have no enemies, it might just be wise to find some. Sounds counterintuitive? Let's look at why this is true. Betrayal comes from trust. Betrayal usually comes from where you least expect it. Someone you trust. And who do you trust? Your friends, not your enemies. That's where the danger lies. The story of Michael III. Robert Greene illustrates this with the story of Michael III, a Byzantine king from the mid-9th century. Michael became king as a young boy. His father was dead. His mother became a nun. There was no one around him who he could truly trust. His uncle, Bardas, was intelligent and ambitious, but Michael couldn't trust him. Into Michael's life came Basileus, a stable boy. Some years before, Basileus had saved Michael's life from a wild horse. Michael admired his bravery, and they became friends. Michael rewarded Basileus generously, paying for his education, making him head of the royal stables, showering him with gifts and favors. Basileus went from crude peasant to cultured courtier. And then, when Michael had to pick his chief advisor, he chose Basileus over his own experienced uncle. The rise and fall. Once Basileus tasted power, he knew how to use it. He convinced Michael that Bardas, the uncle, was plotting a coup. With Michael's permission, Basileus had Bardas eliminated. Soon after, Basileus requested to be made chief of the army. Michael agreed. Basileus now held more power than Michael himself. But power corrupted Basileus. One night, while Michael slept drunk, Basileus entered his chambers, watched as his soldiers stabbed Michael to death, displayed his head on a spike, and declared himself king. A trusted friend became a deadly enemy. Why friends can be dangerous. Friends are great for good times and fun, but not reliable partners. Why? Because friends avoid honesty, to not offend, to fit in, to avoid conflict. If you hire a friend as a partner or employee, firing them is difficult. And if you do fire them, you lose both a partner and a friend. Worse, you might create an enemy who knows too much about you. This is the hidden peril of trusting friends too much. The useful enemy. Enemies, on the other hand, can be useful. After the fall of the Han Dynasty in China, the empire was full of violent, bloody coups. Kings couldn't trust generals. They feared rebellion constantly, and so they killed prominent generals. New generals killed the kings in revenge. The cycle repeated. One man, General Chao Kuang-yin, became emperor in 959 AD. He wanted to break this cycle. The Dinner of Truth. Chao held a grand dinner for all the top commanders. Afterwards, he gathered them privately, dismissed all guards, and said plainly, "I didn't enjoy the dinner, the wine, or the celebration, because I kept wondering, who among you is thinking of dethroning me?" He admitted to knowing ambition is a peculiar thing. "I was just a general. Now I am emperor. If I can do this, So can you. The commanders were terrified, but begged for mercy. Chao offered something unique, a way out. He told them that for hundreds of years, kings and generals have lived in constant fear, violence, and betrayal. But if any general wished to give up their position for peace, Chao would provide them with estates, riches, and security, a life far from power struggles. The next day, all accepted and retired as wealthy nobles. In one move, Chao transformed potential enemies, wolves, into peaceful lambs.
Chao was even wiser. When he defeated the king of Southern Han, instead of killing him, which was the norm, he gave him an important position at court. When the king hesitated to drink wine out of fear of poison, Chao drank it himself, proving his trust. This king later became one of Chao's most loyal allies. Another king, Chen Shu, was defeated and implicated in plotting Sung's death. Advisors wanted him hanged. Sung instead honored him and sent him home with a package. Inside was evidence of the assassination plot. Seeing how Sung knew everything but spared him, Chen Shu flipped. He devoted his life to Sung, becoming a loyal ally. A Chinese proverb compares friends to the teeth and jaws of an animal. Chao understood this. True friends, like teeth and jaws, can bite and hurt, especially in stressful times. Friends are not reliable under pressure. Greed and ambition can surface. Enemies, by contrast, have something to prove. They are motivated to show worth. And you expect nothing from your enemies. There are no favors or emotional ties involved. If someone is your enemy, they usually have skills or talents worthy of being one. Why waste friendship on someone useless? That doesn't mean friends have no use. Friends are useful for certain tasks, especially when you need someone to do dirty work that you can't be involved in directly. If things go wrong, you can distance yourself from the friend. Sometimes a friend has to be sacrificed, but never the closest friend. So, the lesson? Be cautious with your friends. They can betray when least expected. Learn to understand enemies. They can become your greatest allies if handled wisely. This is the hard lesson behind Law 2 of the 48 Laws of Power. What do you think? Is it better to trust enemies or friends in life and power? Let the stories we shared today guide your own decisions.